Hello, and welcome to part 3 of the Increasing Response Rates and Representative Samples Qualtrics workshops from the Center for Teaching, Research, and Learning at American University. This is the last video in a 3-part series. In this video, we will be going over some additional Qualtrics features you can use to improve response rates for your surveys. Qualtrics features such as pipe text, skip logic, and display logic allow researchers to customize the surveys for respondents, and those are the features that we will be going over. All right, so we're going to open up Qualtrics now. Okay, here is our example survey that we're using for this Qualtrics workshop. We're going to go over skip logic and display logic first, just to show you a way to keep the survey as concise as possible to encourage response rates to go up. So keeping the survey short and focused for the respondent will prevent survey fatigue and encourage them to complete the survey. Always think about the survey from the perspective of the survey taker if you want to increase your response rates. So the two options we're going over are display logic and skip logic. Display logic allows researchers to only display the question if certain conditions are met, while skip logic will automatically skip questions that do not apply to the respondent based on their previous answers to a different question. So we're going to go over how to add display and skip logic now. So for example, I'm going to scroll down and show you a display logic that is in one of our answers. All right, so this question is displayed only if these conditions are met. And to create this display logic, I just selected the question. And then on the left-hand side menu panel, you hit display logic. So it already has some conditions in here, but basically, it basically only displays the question if in Q4, the previous question, the respondent strongly agreed that their interests are not being represented, or they somewhat agreed that their interests were not being represented. So these are the two conditions that can be met to display this question. And if you change your mind and want to change the conditions, you would just select the red minus sign to delete the condition. Or you can also, if you want to add more conditions, select the green plus sign. You can also change your selections from the drop-down menu as well. I'm also making this question appear in the same page. So that's why this checkbox is here, which is in page as the previous question that it is referencing in the conditions. So then you would just hit save. Mine is already saved, so I'm just going to hit close. And the question is, which of your interests do you feel are not being represented? But they only get this question if in their previous question they said that they agreed with the statement, my interests are not being represented. So that allows the people that disagreed with that statement to not even see this question, because this question would not apply to them. So that is one way to keep the survey as concise as possible, is to only display these questions if they're relevant to the respondent. Using skip logic works in a very similar way, where it will skip questions that don't apply to the respondent. So in this particular survey, actually the first question up here about consent uses skip logic. And it basically skips them to the end of survey if they select no to the question, do you consent to participating in this survey? So if they do select no to that question, they're automatically skipped to the end of the survey instead of to the questions. So that is the first skip logic that we have in this survey. And if we select the question, again, you can go down and see the skip logic option under the question behavior on the left-hand side menu panel. You might have to scroll down to the bottom, but here it is. And skip logic, if you select it, then you can select the conditions of your skip logic. That will skip the question if certain criteria is met. So it works in a very similar way as the display logic. It just, the result is a little bit different depending if you want to have your conditions display a particular question or skip a particular section, which is also an option. You can have it skip a whole block, um, or you can have it skip the entire survey as we did in our consent question. So that's all an option, and you can play around with them to see what is best for your survey. But keeping it as short and concise as possible will prevent survey respondents from getting fatigued with the survey and leaving it unanswered instead of completing it. So that is one option. Another option that we're going to go through is how to personalize surveys using piped text. So personalizing your survey can increase response rates, even pretty dramatically. Customizing it with information you already know about the respondents can just add a personal human dimension that encourages people to respond to the survey. So, for example, if you've already asked them what their name is in a previous survey question, you can use pipe text as an option to use their name later on in the survey and call them directly by their name that they gave you earlier in a different question. So we're going to go through how to create piped text. We're going to go back to that question that had the display logic here, which asks which of your interests do you feel are not being represented. We actually already have some pipe text in here. I'm going to just delete it so that I can show you how it was created. Okay, so the first step in this process is to select the question that you want to insert the pipe text, and then select the question text itself. And then you'll see that when you are in the text box where you can type in the survey question, you'll have an option of content-rich editor and pipe text above the box. So we're going to hit the piped text option, and you can pipe text from a number of different places. You can see that there's a lot of choices here, but we're going to keep the survey question. That is the most common place to pipe text from. Keep in mind there's also embedded data and a number of other options here. But we're going to pipe text from the question where they typed in their name. And you can either pipe in question text, or you can actually pipe in their answer by selecting the question. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to select the question so that it gives their answer. And you can see that it put in a little code or formula. And I'm going to put a space between that and the question. But the answer, the piped text that it fills in should be the value of the question that they answered. So the value that they put in when we asked them what their first and last name is will be automatically piped in to this code right here. So that is one option for just making a personalization and actually using the name that the respondent gave you earlier in the survey. So it would, for example, Jane Smith, if that was their name, it would automatically be piped here. And the question would then read, Jane Smith, which of your interests do you feel are not being represented? Um, so if you want to ask them their first name separately, so you can just use their first name, um, that is also an option. So just keep that in mind when you're creating the survey. If you want to add that like personalization, that's an option through piped text. I can also show you how to put piped text into your email distributions if you would like. So if we go back to distributions here and just let the site load for a second. All right. And here we go. We're going to hit compose email here so that I can show you how to do a pipe text option within your email that you send out to the email distribution. And this would work both in the original email distribution with the original invitation to take the survey and original email. And it would also work in reminder emails as well if you want to personalize those. So in the text body window of the message, you see a bunch of different icons for customizing your font and your style of the email. One of these buttons has a pipe text option to insert. It's the on mine, it's the third one from the right and on the top row. It may look different on yours. That's how it is on mine. And it looks like a little A with some brackets on it. And if you hover over it, it should say insert pipe text. So if you select that, then you can pipe text again from a number of different options, from a survey question, from embedded data, from other different options as well. Since we're assuming they haven't taken the survey yet, so they probably would not have answers to pipe text from, but you could pipe text from a question if you'd like. But in this example, we would select contact fields, which is the contact list you originally made at the top of the email here when you select contacts and you created your new contact list for the distribution to send out. So in that case, we would select contacts fields, and then you could select the recipient's first name. Um, you can actually select any of the other information you have on them, but normally first name would be the most personal. So you could select that there. And then again, this little code surrounded in brackets will be where the text is piped into. And it's just like a placeholder for where that first name would go that's being piped in to the email. And that will be different for each person. It'll automatically pull the first name that was given when you created the contact list. So under each email, it will go to the first name associated with that email and pipe that into the message so that it is using the first name that's associated with the contact email that you gave. Um, so that is another way to try and customize your email distributions to encourage further response rates by trying to have better outreach for your surveys, more personalized and like a human element to it, especially with virtual surveys. So I hope this has been helpful. This is the last video in the series, and I hope that you have enjoyed it and that it will help you in creating your research surveys. Thank you.